How you doing, everybody? And welcome to the Rosalind World. I'm your host, Rosalind Perkins, and today is our first opening to this new podcast. I want to thank y'all for coming and supporting all my platforms and stuff. But this one right here is a conspiracy one. The reason why it's a conspiracy podcast because we deal with things that people have talked about but really never dug deep into it. Uh, Such as Illuminati, Freemasonry, New World Order, just on the lines of those type of things. But today we will be talking about Pan Africanism. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Does it help Black Americans? Do it hurt Black Americans? What does it do? Why do we need Black Pan Africanism? Me, personally, to me, I would I would not speak on it, and the reason why I wouldn't speak on it right now is because I'm gonna learn when you learn. I'm gonna look up things when we look up things. I'm gonna look up things on while I'm on live. So definitely sit back and relax and enjoy. And I hope you have a great time. And I hope it's something that you'll like. I know things will start off slow, and some of the stuff you're gonna like, some stuff you're not gonna like. So, if anything, you can always email me. What is it? Email me, DM me on X, or send a Cash App or a live chat. Send a super chat. You can do either or. Definitely, I do read these, so we will be learning together. Uh, how I got into Pan African, if you never watched any of my shows, I will tell you who I am. I am a Rosalind Perkins. I do documentaries. I'm a professional wrestler. I do a lot of things. And I am a podcaster. I've been doing podcasts for a year. I kind of got decent at it. So definitely it's going to be cool. But I do have to get used to this type of form of podcasting. I usually just can speak freely and say whatever I want to say. But with this, I have to know information. I'm going to have to look up stuff. I'm going to have to read certain things properly. And it's gonna be new, but I will definitely adapt into it. It might take me maybe 6 shows, probably less. And I will be doing these shows Tuesdays and Thursdays. The reason why Tuesdays and Thursdays, because Mondays and Wednesdays I do the Roastling podcast. So definitely look at both of them. It's gonna be super dope. Um, I do want to say this. I have no dog in the fight. That's my flag. I don't do Pan Africanism. I used to, but it's just not my thing. And I'm gonna be personally honest with you. The reason why Pan Africanism is not my thing is because I don't think Pan Africanism helps Black America. And that's just me. So don't go on what I say. Just do the work, research, and definitely have an open mind to this. With these shows, we might do an hour, hour and a half. We might watch a few videos and see see what type of information people think and say and believe in. So definitely enjoy yourself. That's one thing I'm gonna say first. Enjoy yourself. The reason why I want you to enjoy yourself because I want stuff like this where this is like a research or educational show. So definitely, again, thank you for watching, and I appreciate everything. I will be having more stuff, but this one right here will probably be like an hour, hour and a half. Probably less. Who knows? Um, Also, right now I'm just checking. I'm just checking the volume, see how everything is, and all that other cool stuff. But we could get started definitely. If anybody don't know what Pan Africanism, definitely we're gonna look it up. Pan Africanism. Pan Africanism is a movement that advocates for unity, solidarity, and self determination among people of African descent. It also aims to end colonialism and white supremacy in Africa. Goals: uh, promote African unity and solidarity, end colonialism and apartheid, promote African culture and heritage, advocates economy, political, and social empowerment, develops strategies amongst racial injustice and inequality. Um, like that shit sounds dope. It sounds super cool and stuff, but it says nothing about Black America. It just talked about Africa. And that's where my issue is that it only talks about Africa. I'm not saying, oh yeah, don't support it, don't do this, don't do that. I always told people be wise and be mindful what these things say. When I was young, I used to think, my flag was red, black, and green. I always thought that, and growing up and being older and wiser, it was never for me. And when we do these type of conspiracies and stuff, we will be talking about, like, for example, who, what, when, why, how, and where. But the things we're going to start with is what, who, when, and why. We just figured out what was Pan-Africanism, you know? And just reading it had nothing to do with Black America. And I'm just being personally honest. Why do Black Americans support that? And, like, let's read what Wikipedia say. Give me 1 second. We're gonna look at Wikipedia. I gotta reset my display. I always told people to be wise and be mindful what these Pan-Africanism is a nationalist movement that aims to encourage and strengthen bonds of solidarity between all indigenous people and diasporas of African ancestry. Growing up and being based on a common goal dating back to the Atlantic slave trade. When we do these I was about to say transatlantic slave and stuff, we will be talking about. I think it's supposed to say transatlantic slave. For example, slave trade. In the trans-Sahara slave trade, the movement extends beyond continental Africans with subliminal support based amongst the African diaspora in America and in Europe. And just reading it had nothing to do with Black America. Like I said, it sounds cool. And I'm just being personally honest. But it said something different when I was reading. Why do Black Americans support that? And, like, let's read what Wikipedia says. Give me 1 second. We're gonna look at Wikipedia. Just stuff like that is crazy. My display. And there's a lot of, like, I wouldn't say leaders, but has been a lot of people that supported Pan-Africanism movement that aims to encourage and strengthen bonds of solidarity between even Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, people. Robert Love, who's Robert Love? Growing up, Joseph on a common goal. He's probably one of the founders. Back to the Atlantic slave trade. When we do these, I was about to say transatlantic slave trade. Oh no, it's not. I think it's another guy in the 1900s. I think. For example, slave trade. In the trans-Sahara slave trade, the movement extends beyond. There's a lot of people, Africans, with subliminal. But I do want to say this: based amongst the African diaspora, even Gaddafi supported it. It just. And I gotta be personally honest. Just reading it had nothing to do with Black. Like I said, this shit sounds cool. It sounds cool. And I'm just being personally honest. But it said something different when I don't think this is our culture. I don't think. I think this is what I think. Give me 1 second. Just reading this, I feel like they're just trying to take every
just
black
stuff like that is
person and wrap
crazy.
them up in African clothes and tell them that they're African.
And there's a
Have
lot
them
of
play the
like I
fucking
wouldn't
drums
say
and
leaders, but
say
there
that
has
they're
been a lot of
African.
people that support it.
I think that's very wrong, and I think
movement
that's very
that aims
divisive.
to encourage and strengthen.
The reason why I say I think it's divisive because it's not our culture.
Marcus Garvey,
People in
Robert
diaspora
Love,
of
who's
Africa.
Robert
You
Love?
making every person
Joseph
with fair skin come from Africa, and
back to the
if you really want to be honest, everybody's from
slave
Africa.
trade. When we do these,
We could say that everybody's from Africa.
I think it's another guy in the 19th.
Let me give me a second. I'm gonna pull up my seat.
In the trans-Sahara slave trade.
There we go.
Movement.
Everybody's from
extends
Africa.
beyond. There's a lot of people.
If you look at it like that,
with subliminal.
but I do want to say
support
this.
bases amongst the
Do I have a problem with
African
people
diaspora.
supporting Pan
It's
Africanism?
just-
No, I don't have no problems
I
with
gotta be
people
personally
supporting
honest.
Pan Africanism.
Like I
My
said,
problem
it
is,
sounds cool. It sounds cool.
where did this Pan Africanism come from?
But it said something different.
where
I
did
don't
it come
think
from?
This is our culture. I don't think.
And I think
This is what
with
I
certain
think.
people, even Gaddafi,
Just
I think
reading
he
this,
tried
I
to
feel
get
like
out of
they're just
Pan
trying to
Africanism. Because when he was actually
Take
trying to
every
do
black
something for
person and wrap
Africa,
them up in African
they killed
clothes
him.
and tell them that they're African. And there's a
Have
lot
them
of.
play But the now fucking the question drums and, is,
but there was has been a lot of
who
people
funded
that
Pan
supported it.
African?
I think that's very
Is-
wrong, and
I think that's very divisive.
To encourage and strengthen.
The reason why I say I think it's divisive because it's not our culture.
Marcus Garvey, Robert Love, you making every person
Joseph
with fair skin come from Africa, and
If you really want to be honest, everybody's from Africa. We could say that everybody's from Africa. These are the things that we have to ask our questions.
in the Sahara slave trade.
There we go.
Movement.
Everybody's from Africa.
Africa.
So I was
If you look at it
watching
like that,
19 Keys, and one thing that he did, he went into African.
do I have a problem with people
culture
supporting
Pan Africanism?
America?
Was that African Society of America? I think this is where he went
My
into
problem
African.
is,
Where did this Pan Africanism come from?
but it said
Of
something different.
America.
I
Where did
don't
it come
think
from?
This is our culture. I don't think.
And I think
This is what
with
I
certain
think.
people, even Gaddafi,
Just
I think
reading
he
this,
tried
I
to get
feel
out
like
of
they're
Pan
just trying to
Africanism. Because when he was actually
Take
trying to
every
do
black
something for
person,
Africa,
wrap them up in African
they killed
clothes
him.
and tell them that they're African. And there's a
Have
lot
them
of.
play But now the question is, what the
heck?
who funded Pan
I
African?
think that's
African
very
Society of American Society of African Culture.
The reason why I say I think it's
He went into this, and I started doing research on this.
Robert Love.
And if anybody don't know what this is basically, I'll read it, was an organization of African Americans, writers, artists, and scholars. The society was founded
These are the things
as a result of the Congress of Negro Writers and Artists in 1956, based on the idea of French
19 Keys.
FR Society.
And one thing
oh,
that
that's
he
in
did,
French.
he went into African.
Do I have a problem
but
with
let's
people
click and see what this
supporting
is.
Pan-Africanism?
America was that
African
this is
Society
in
of
French.
America.
I
See if
think
I
this
could get
is where
this.
he
in
went
My
into
problem
African
is,
where did this
Pan-Africanism come
English?
from?
No, I can't.
Of America.
Where did it come from? This is our culture. I don't think.
So it was like a
I
whole bunch
think
of scholars.
certain
It's,
people,
and I'm gonna say this:
Gaddafi,
it
I
was
think
the
he tried
same
to
way
get out
as how the boulets were created.
Because when he was actually
Trying to do something for Africa. It was the same ways how the boulets were created. Give me 1 second.
But now
I'm
the
gonna,
question is,
what the heck? Who funded Pan African?
Make that a
African
little bit
Society
smaller.
American Society of African Culture. And
he went into
like I said,
this,
I don't see nothing
and
wrong with the
started doing
American
research on
Society
this.
of African Culture.
And if anybody,
But
don't
I
know what
think-
this is
No, but we're gonna
basically-
see
I'll read
who
it.
funded
Was an
this.
organizations
of African Americans,
writers, artists, and scholars.
CIA funded.
The society
Right
was
there.
founded
These are the things
as a result of the
CIA funded.
Congress of
AMSAC
AMSAC
had
had
received
received
federal
federal
tax
tax
exemptions
exemptions
on
So,
the year
on the
prior
idea- I was
of
watching
and
French
that
19
was it,
keys.
that's FR Society
grants
became
became
available to the organization for specific projects for various entitles.
Society of America.
See if I can get this.
My problem is
The federal backing was how they were able to organize the large festivals in Lago. So it was like a whole bunch of scholars. Later revealed as CIA pass-through. Now the question is, what does the CIA has to do with Pan-Africanism? Same ways how the boulets were created. Give me 1 second. These are the questions that you gotta ask. If the CIA funding this, there has to be a reason. American Society of African Culture. Like I said, I don't see nothing wrong with the American. To know all it is, you gotta understand, and if anybody, but I think you gotta know your history. But we're gonna see who funded. Was an organization. We know African Americans, 440 million. Now, every 40 million Black Americans have not came from the slave trade. CIA Congress of I personally believe, and this is just what I believe. I believe some of us Black Americans were Aboriginals. I'm not talking about Native Americans, like Indians, but we were Aboriginals with them. They wasn't the only Aboriginals. Various entitles. When you start remembering like the Seminole Wars and all these other stuff, you gotta ask the question this. Why would Abraham Lincoln and Lago, so it was like a whole bunch of make Black Americans free as CIA pass-through? Now the question, especially with the ideology that they have, with Pan-Africanism, how the boulets were created. Give me 1 second. These are the questions that you. There had to be a reason. What's the real reason? If the CIA funding this, there has to be a reason. American Society of African Culture. You get that's like saying, yo, you know what? I'm gonna give you a PS5. To know all it is, yo, I just bought me a PS5. But I think you gotta know what? Every time it breaks, you get a new one. You get a new one. You get a new one. You said, know what? I'm gonna stop getting that free PS5. 40 million. I'm just gonna, you know what? Buy every 40 million. Let me just buy Americans have came from. I think that's the best. Have not came from the slave trade. CIA Congress of I personally believe, and this is just what I believe. Now the question is, now before we start, you know, this rabbit hole, some of us Black Americans were Aboriginals. I'm not talking about Native Americans, CIA, like Indians, but we were Aboriginals with them. They wasn't the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency. When you start remembering like the Seminole Wars as the agency stuff, you gotta ask the question this. Why would Abraham Lincoln, as Langley in the historic Black America, as the company is a civilian foreign intelligence, especially with the ideology service of the federal government of the United States, tasked with gathering, processing, and analyzing there had to be a reason, security information for around the world. Now, why would this agency that's like saying, yo, you know what? I'm gonna give you Pan-Africanism. To know all it is, yo, I just bought me a PS5. But I think you gotta know what? Every time it breaks, you get a new one. You get a new one. You get a new one. You said, know what? I'm gonna stop getting that free PS5. 40 million. I'm just gonna, you know what? Buy. Every 40 million. You know, and Black Americans have came. I used to look at all these movies, these slavery movies and stuff, and the Black person used to be all scared. Now the question is, don't hit me, master. Don't hit me, master. You know, this rabbit hole. Now let's think. Aboriginals. I'm not talking about Native Americans. CIA. Was every black Aboriginal like that? Or was these people fighting? When you start remembering like the Seminole Wars as the agency stuff, you gotta ask the question. Because you gotta look at it. From blacks to Africans, you could tell the difference. You can tell that we were mixed, but you know we was not mixed with all white people. You can tell, especially with the ideology. Then when you look at a native, the natives be having the same skin as us. So you know there was mixed breeding, but we wasn't mixed breeding with all white people. You might have your now why would this some of the motherfuckers sold it in that category? But they were mixed breeding with the other Aboriginals. But I think you gotta know what? Every time it breaks, you get a new one. Like, let's be honest. You said, know what? I'm gonna stop getting that free PS5. All those people couldn't be the only, you know, and the only. I used to look at all these movies, these slavery. There wasn't the only Aboriginal Native Americans in this country, in South America, in the Caribbean islands. Aboriginals.
I'm not
What
talking about
is
Native American.
CIA?
Was every
They say that they
black
sent only
was every
400,000
black
slaves
Aboriginal like that
to North America, to the United States of America. How did we get 44 million? Within the matter of
from blacks to
500
Africans,
years.
you can tell the difference. As
You can tell that we were mixed.
but
That doesn't make sense and it don't add up. Something doesn't add up. You can tell.
especially with the ideology.
Then when you look at a native, the natives be having the same skin as us. The
So
thing
you
is,
know there was mixed breeding,
but they were at war with black Americans. Black Americans were fighting back.
Some of the motherfuckers sold it in
We
that-
wasn't
in that
slave all
category.
chained up, getting
But they
raped
were
and
mixed breeding
brutalized
with-
and just
with the other
just standing there and just taking it.
But I think you gotta know what.
Yeah, we can talk about Nat Turner, but there were other freedom fighters.
I'm gonna stop getting that free PS5.
All those people couldn't be the only. There were other freedom fighters. There was more people than just Harriet Tubman. There wasn't the only Aboriginal Native Americans in this country. Like, let's be honest. South America, in the Caribbean islands. You think they just gave us this Pan-Africanism and said, "Oh, you're from Africa." You think they just started calling us African Americans for no reason because we were African Americans? No, they just started calling us that for a reason.
Because you
Within the matter of
from blacks to
500
Africans,
years.
you can tell the difference.
Why is Black Americans the only
that doesn't make sense if it don't add up.
ethnicity is
Something
put
doesn't add up.
that has to get Africans pushed on them?
Then when you look at
to
a
say that,
native,
yo, you're
the
African.
natives be having the same skin as us.
The thing
so you
is,
know there was mixed breeding. But
that's
we wasn't-
something
they were
crazy.
at
This
war
is
with
something that we
Black
need to be
Americans.
thinking about.
You might have
Black Americans were fighting
now, why
back.
would some of them
Back in the days, my
motherfuckers
grandmother wasn't
we
called
wasn't
African American. My grandmother is almost 90 years old. Just standing there and just taking it. African was not pushed on my grandmother.
Yeah, we can talk about Nat Turner, but
She was
there were
probably called
other
colored,
freedom fighters.
or maybe even black.
All those people couldn't be the only.
But African American?
freedom fighters.
There was more people
Let
than
me
just
ask-
Harriet. Why you think these people attack Tariq
only
Nasheed? Why you think these people attack
Americans
Mike TV?
in
And
this
these people are
country, in
arguing with
South
each other
America.
right now. These
the
people are
Caribbean
at
islands.
like, we could say podcast war.
You think
but
they just gave us this Pan-Africanism?
why you
and
think
said,
all this stuff
you're
is
from
happening?
Africa.
You think they just started calling us African Americans for no
The
reason?
CIA
Because
funded
we were African Africans. No, they just started calling us that for a reason. Within the matter of
from blacks
500
to
years. Yeah, and it's. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna tell you the truth. It's crazy to me. I think it's nuts. I feel like Black Americans, the only ones have to carry the burden because at the end of the day, they are afraid to tell us who we really are. America knows who we are. They knew most of us didn't come from Africa. We were already here. We were mixing and breeding with the natives, the other natives and other natives. That's why we come in so many different types of colors. Like, we go to Africa. Why does most of those people come in damn near one color? All those tribal people come in one color. You go to Puerto Rico, those people come in different colors. Trinidad, they come in different colors. Dominican Republic, Haiti, they come in different colors. They were breeding off with other people, with other ethnicities. You can Africanize them, yes, absolutely. I'm not saying you can't. But some of them were breeding with the Aboriginal people of that country. They were. Now the question you have to think is, the guy in Haiti, did Did he help in planning that himself? Did them Africans do it themselves, or did they have the Aboriginals help them? These are the things you have to ask. These are the questions that you have to, yo, is this true? What's going on? Yada, yada, yada. The CIA. Now, the question I'm going to ask y'all is, what does American Society of African Culture has to do with Pan-Africanism? What do they got to do with Pan-Africanism? I'm going to put that in. The African Society of American Society of African Culture, AMSAC, was organized that actively promoted Pan-Africanism through its various activities, including scholarly. These are the questions that you have to. Yo, is this true? What's going on? Is it confidence? Yada yada yada. Conference. I'm sorry, conference, art exhibits, and publications where they focus on fostering unity and understanding among people of African descent across the globe. Was it globe? Now the question Pacifically, I'm no, is, yeah, politically. I don't know that word. Between African Americans and Africans of the continent. Their notable publication on the topic is titled Pan-Africanism Reconsiderated. I'm gonna put that in. What is that telling everybody? This culture, this organization was funded by the CIA. And they promoted Pan-Africanism. American Society of African Culture, AMSAC, was organized that. Y'all want to know what I believe promoted? I think Pan-Africanism. I think Pan-African movement. They were scared. America was scared. And this is just me. I think America was scared that. Conference. Black people are gonna fight back. And publications. Black people are not going to just take what you do to them. Unity and understanding. But when you can program somebody of their culture, of their ethnicity, of who they are, of their history, that can change somebody. Between African, telling a black person that you was just a slave. You never fought back. You was victim. You was a victim. Pan-Africanism Reconsiderated. I'm gonna put that in. What is that telling everybody? You're telling somebody that this culture, this organization was funded by the CIA. Tear somebody's dignity. Basically, gonna pull their dignity and they promoted Pan-Africanism. Make it something. American Society of African. They're not gonna be able to focus on who they are. They're always gonna question, like, damn, who am I? I think Pan-Africanism. I think Pan-African movement. Am I just, they were scared? Person of a slave? No, now. And this is just me. We got foundational Black Americans that. Conference. Why are these Pan-Africanism people going to fight back? Pan-African movement attacking these people? Black people are not going to. Why they are attacking foundational Black Americans? Because we're figuring out who. But when you could program somebody of their culture, of their ethnicity, we're starting to figure who they are, of their history. That can change somebody. Now you're getting people from other continents are trying to tell us who we are. That you was just a slave. You never fought back. You African. You was victim. You was a victim. Pan-Africanism Reconsiderated. Everything. Oh, you don't say it. Everybody. But I always tell people you don't say that to the Caribbeans.
culture.
You don't tell Caribbeans, oh yeah, they got culture.
That's
We
gonna
got culture too. We got universal
dignity.
Basically, gonna pull their dignity,
And they
tear the
promoted
dignity,
Pan-Africanism.
make it something. We got universal culture.
They're not gonna be able to focus on who they are.
It's because you know what,
They're always
black
gonna
people are
question, like,
respected.
damn, you know, who am I?
And I think people are scared of that. It's like, damn,
Pan-African movement, am I just, you know?
I wouldn't even say scared. It's a little more of
person of a
envy.
slave. No, now,
And
this is just me.
We just hating on a person because he's doing good.
Maybe
not want to be him,
but
because he's doing good. Well, we could say jealousy.
Attacking these
Because
black people are not gonna.
Why
just
they are
attack
Africans
the
cosplay
foundation
black
of
people
American
in
because we're
other
figuring out
countries.
when you could program
For
somebody.
example, Japan.
We're starting to figure
who they
out
are,
who we are, of their history.
The only people who can
Now
adapt
you're getting people
to
from other
Japan is
continents
probably
trying to
Africans.
tell
That's
us
who
black
we are.
person that you was just a slave.
And the reason why, and this is no shot to them,
African. You was victimized.
they are known for running. They known for fleeing their own country.
Everything.
Oh, when they can't cut it.
But I always tell people,
telling
you don't say
somebody
that to the Caribbeans. Culture.
You don't tell Caribbeans, oh
yeah,
yeah,
they got culture.
Then they come to
got culture too.
This is what I don't get.
Dignity.
How can you go to another country and fly your
They
flag
promoted Pan-Africanism.
after you just ran from that
universal
country?
culture. They're not gonna be able to focus on who they are.
It's because you know
The
what?
reason why
I put my
people are
flag on the
respected,
wall
you
because
know,
at the end of the
I
day,
think
people are scared of that. It's like, damn, my
movement
culture
just,
never ran.
I wouldn't even say
We
scared.
had
It's
to
a little,
fight. We couldn't run nowhere.
No, now. And this is just me.
Just hating on a person because he's doing good. We
We
try to, you know what? We try to
Maybe
teach
not
the
wanna
world
be
like,
him,
yo,
but
y'all can fight because he's doing good. Well, we could say jealousy.
Attacking these
'Cause
black people are not gonna.
Why
just
they are
attack
Africans
the
cosplay
foundation
black
of
people. This is
people.
your. I say
Other countries-
we were at a big disadvantage, but y'all got an advantage. That's your country.
example,
Y'all know y'all country.
Japan.
Y'all know y'all
We're
country's
starting to know who
ins
they
and
are.
outs.
Of their history.
But the only reason why Africa's messed up is
Japan
because
is probably
they were tribalistics. There was so many tribes in Africa where
And the reason
they didn't
why-
just
and
say
this is
like,
no
yo, you
shot
know
to
what,
the
yo,
African.
let's fight later and
They
just
are known for
yo,
running. They known for fleeing their own country.
Let's just do our thing now and get these people out
you-
because
when
they
they can't
came
cut
here
it.
to destroy us.
But I always tell people, you don't say that to the Caribbeans. Culture.
That's why their country is colonized. We had to fight. That's why you hear about all these Aboriginal wars in America. While the Europeans were here, there was a whole bunch of Aboriginal wars, and we fought Americans. We fought Europeans. Like, I want to say this. Abraham Lincoln. Let's get back into what Abraham Lincoln. You think Abraham Lincoln just said, you know what? Out of the kindness of my heart, I think we need to let these Aboriginals become free men. No, it was costing him money. It costs money when you have to go to war. When you don't have to go to war, it's not going to cost you no money because you're not going to war. Let's give them their freedom. We did enough to them. That's what you got to understand. This is what you got to think. This Pan-Africanism, it's very scary, and it's not us. The conspiracy was always saying, yo, we're all African. We're all from western and central part of Africa. But you got to understand, most of us haven't been there in almost 1,000 years, 2,000 years, maybe even 3. Yeah, we did, and this is what I used to think. I was like, yo, we used to import and export with Africans because we started finding our artifacts. They're not thinking like, yo, we were probably already here. Then when I really caught myself, I was arguing with an African because he thought there was no black people in America already, North or South America. And this is where I say, with Aboriginals, the foundational black Americans, people always undermine them. Everybody undermined them. People looked it up when I said it, like, oh, let me look it up. Like I was wrong. Prove me wrong. I lost a lot of friends like that because at the end of the day, I feel like people are undermining me now. When you just doing that all the time, you're not. It's coming to a point where, you're trying to disrespect me, call me stupid. It seems like you're calling me stupid. I'm just being personally honest. It feels like, yo, is this motherfucker calling me stupid or something? You got to think about stuff like that. Like, yo, why is everybody always undermining black people? You don't have no culture. But we are the Aboriginal of North America. Let's all think about that. That's scary. They told us we were slaves. We were all slaves. They took us from another country. They took us from another country. And gave us our history. Now let's think about that, everybody. Again, now the question is, why did they make Pan-Africanism? And I always tell people, when you make these type of movements, you make these type of movements when it's not funded by your own people to soften up the culture, to soften up the mentality. That's why they always say, oh, yo, when they took the men out the house, they did that shit for a reason. To make people weak. Because you need a mother and a father. When you just have a mother, she'll just tell you, yo, just listen to him. I just want you to get home. Your father will be like, yo, fight. You got to fight back, man. You can't let people do this to you. They did these type of things for a reason. The CIA. And this is why I always tell people all the time, when they talk about this Donald Trump, oh yeah, it's the FBI and CIA trying to set him up. They've been doing that shit for years. When you're messing around with the system and you're not playing your part, you're a liability. Donald is a liability. They know he's a liability. They're gonna get him out regardless. I'm saying that. The CIA and the FBI is gonna get Donald out regardless. Some way, somehow. Why do you think they put the Pan-Africanism now? They put it because the Aboriginals were a liability. Why do you think they don't want black history in schools? Because people started finding out what the truth was. This is all we got to say. They started finding out what the truth is. They haven't had black history in schools ever since the 1970s, technically. Technically. There was only American history. Then they give you Martin Luther King. That's it. And Harriet Tubman. Those are the people that they gave black history to. One got killed. The other one freed a few slaves. People don't say, "Oh yeah, Harriet Tubman, she was an Israelite. She had culture." They don't talk about Nat Turner. They don't talk about John Horse. Because those are the people that revolted, and that was American history. That's American history right there. The people who fought for right, the people who died for freedom. They don't tell you those stories. Those are the those are the things you got to ask yourself. Why do they do stuff like this? Why did we need Pan-Africanism? Why are they telling us that we're Africans? And don't get me wrong, some of us might be like, we all have African blood. We all have black African DNA. Absolutely. But this ethnogenesis stuff, we have more than just African blood though. Let me ask you a question. If we had an American alligator in Africa and it has a baby, are we going to call it an African alligator, or are we going to still call it an American alligator because that's what we named it in America? This is the things that we have to talk about. You know, Pan African movement try to give us culture. They try to give us culture that wasn't ours. The dashikis and all that other stuff, the black power stuff. We don't know nothing about that. Our culture don't go that back that far in Africa. Then there's so many tribes in Africa. And like, this is where you get into the civil rights movements and all these other things. These are all CIA funded. All that stuff was CIA funded. Am I saying it's wrong? No, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that, like, yo, we need to think about this stuff. Why are we all call? Why is an Aboriginal black person calling himself an African American? Why? Why are we calling ourselves African American? But people get mad when we say, "Oh yeah, you know what? I'm a foundational Black American. I'm the foundation of my ancestors is the foundation of America." They get mad and say, "Oh no, you're African." I know nothing about Africa. I know something. I know that, they treat us like this for some reason. They tell us what our culture is. Then every time we look back and they say, "Oh no, you're African." I know that. I always tell people this. It's very scary. It's very scary when you think, and this is just me, when you think you're doing something right by supporting this movement, just like the BLM. Who were they funded by? You got to figure out. I'm gonna let y'all know one thing. Once you figure out where their money came from, you know what type of movement that they're running. We just read Pan Africans were funded by the CIA. Their location is in Nigeria. But black Americans is the only one that pushes Pan-Africanism. Only time an African push Pan-Africanism is when they can benefit off of it. Right now, they could benefit off of it because of why? Some countries are in the genocide. Another countries are in civil war, guerrilla warfare that's going on in their country, colonizations, other invaders from the western area. The best thing to do, you could say like, yo, get behind the black Americans or the aboriginals. Y'all should have did that in the beginning. When we was like, oh, when we was even pushing this Pan-Africanism, we would have never found out anything. Because we would have always thought we were one. Helping Africa out, helping y'all come to this country. Let me tell you something. What do you think Pan-Africanism did? Help other people from Africa come to this country. Through a way of manipulation from aboriginals. Thinking that we were on code with them. And they were all with tickets. Dr. Umar. Now we could talk about Dr. Umar. We started giving him money, funding him, sending him money to fix up a school. We've been waiting for like over 11 years for him to fix up a school. Now this motherfucker's off in what? Ghana. Talking about he wants to go on 20 versus 1 to look for an African woman. This is the stuff that we have to think about. Now, give me 1 second. I'm going to look up something. We're going to watch a video. We're going to watch a video. This one, African culture. Give me 1 second. And let me ask you a question. Now we saying like when black people are like, oh, yo, we're not Pan-Africans. Yeah, everybody got African blood, but they have their own culture. You know? It we got to figure out where all this stuff came from. Because I just feel like this. We have been doing so much for Pan-Africanism for the past 60, 70 years, maybe 80. Nah, 60 years. Around 60 years. We've been doing so much, but what have we gotten from it? What have we gotten from it? You know, we haven't gotten nothing from it. Hold on, hold on. And like now, just looking back at it and just thinking, I'm like, yo, what the heck? You're like, yo, I've been pushing Pan Africanism for so many years. I've been doing this with Pan Africanism. I've been doing that with Pan Africanism. You know, and let me show you how we're all different. We're gonna watch this thing from Epic Discovery. Hold on, should we watch that? Nah, we ain't gonna watch it. You watch it some other time. I was gonna do that, but we will do it. I'll do the reaction to that. I promise I'll do a reaction for that. Um, hey, let me tell you why Pan Africanism is so dangerous. And I'm gonna say this: Pan, CIA, they destroyed their own, they destroyed their own leaders. The Pan African leaders, Patrice Lumumba. He was from Congo. He died. Gaddafi died. Marcus Garvey got ran out of America and Jamaica. Died. That's only a few. Martin Luther King died. Malcolm X died. Then when we say, "Oh, yo, we're different from them," like we let me tell you something. Just about every battle, every war, every type of confrontation in America, North American, Black Americans been in. We been in. Hold on a second. Like this is the stuff that we got to talk about, and these are conspiracies. These are the conspiracies. Oh shoot! I'm sorry, everybody. Give me a second. I'm supposed to send something to Wiz Mason, and I know, cause yo, I always do that because I send people. Hold on. So these are the things that we have to worry about. You know, and Pan Africanism has always been dangerous. Right now, they're running out. They ran out. Like come on. They say we've been going 1619. We were supposed to be back 2019. 44 million people are gonna be in Ghana. That doesn't make no sense. We're not going to Ghana. You know why? Because most of us is not from Ghana. I think, put it this way, I think 10% to 20% of people came from Africa or have that African, those slave trades that left that country, left those countries in Africa, and that is over here in America, there's like 20% of them. And I'm probably part of that 20% because my family's Geechee. But also I got family in Alaska. Like my family tree traces back to Alaska, Georgia, Alabama, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida. So my you gotta understand this. I get I get what the president is doing in Ghana. I get it. But what's the real reason? What's the real reason why you want black people in America in Africa now? And my theory is they brought the wrong people. They fought. Let me tell you something. Specifically, Nigeria. They fought the wrong people to stay in that country. The colonizers is in in certain parts of those countries in Western Africa. It was because of Nigeria. I really do believe that. And shout out to Benin. Cause they fought till the wheels fell off that motherfucker. And I gotta be personally honest. And I'm sorry, excuse my French, but they fought until the wheels fell off. Why people turned on them and stuff like that, and like they were doing good. But also they probably was the cause of that war. Now this is the question. Why do we want why do black Americans need Pan-Africanism? We already have culture. We have everything that we need. The only thing, let me tell you something. Black Americans only need this. We only need to learn how to build our economy and keep our neighborhoods. That's it. Once we start having our own neighborhoods and stuff like that, it's a wrap. You're gonna have 50 to 100 or even thousands of Black Wall Streets. That's what they're scared of. Y'all got free shit. Let me tell you something. You've been getting free $1,000 for the past 400 for past 20 years. Free $1,000 a month for the past 30 years. After I stop paying you that $1,000, within 10 years, I'm a millionaire. You're gonna stop me before I get that $1,000,000. You're gonna cut me off at the at the legs, so I can't get that $1,000,000. That's what America did to the Black American community. They integrated people into our community. That's what happened. Sadly to say, they did that. sucks, it's not right, but it's a part of life. We gotta, but the thing about it, we have to be honest. We gotta be honest about that situation. We gotta be like, oh, well, those fools would have been millionaires. A lot of black Americans would have been millionaires. All these people that you're trying to get out the country, we would have never cared about. You know why? Because we have our own communities. We building with our own communities. Like at one time, black Americans had their own schools. They had their own schools. Then they integrated those people in the school because they didn't want to pay taxes. That's what it. Sometimes, and this is why I always tell people all the time, and this is why Malcolm X said what he said. He was like, "Yo, we can't give the jobs of being a leader to sports players and entertainers because at the end of the day, they have stuff to lose. They just fund it. All they have to do is fund it. You got your leaders right there who are 10 toes down. Like only person I knew who ever done something like that was probably Bill Russell and all those people who were with him. Like we're looking. I'm gonna say this. We're looking at what's going on now. This is the conspiracy. The conspiracy is like, yo, what's going on? Has has Pan African has Pan African movement been the mole? Have they been the mole of all this craziness? Let's think about it. Like if they were funded by the CIA under American Society of African Culture, this is how they were funded. Who you think is pulling them strings? Those are the questions you gotta ask. Who's pulling the strings? Oh, you African. You're this, you're that. We can't keep on doing that. We can't keep on saying, "Oh yeah, yo, you're African." And we know nothing about and when a person say, "Yo, we don't know nothing about Africa." And like I said, I get it. Y'all need help. Y'all need help. We know y'all need help. But at the end of the day, it's just, you know what? With your Pan Africanism, y'all kicked us when we were down. And we was like, yo, can y'all help us? We thought, we're brothers. Y'all was like, nah, niggas, y'all lazy. Y'all are lazy. I came here with nothing, and I got me a good job. Now we was like, oh, okay, cool. Now you need help now. It's like, oh, we need help, but at the end of the day, we always build y'all out. That's the thing. The Africanisms, there was always one in the front run for y'all telling y'all this. Like, yo, we need to help them. I supposedly called leaders was like, yo, we need to help them. They're our brothers. That's why, yo, we cut them off too. They with y'all. They on the same boat as y'all, or we consider them coons. We consider them coons because they sold us out. Even Jesse Jackson. Where did me ask y'all a question? Where did this thing African American come from? I'm gonna look that up. Cause you want to be. If we're really gonna be honest, Elon Musk is African American. Elon Musk is African American. And you know what? We're gonna watch this 11-minute video. It seems it's the untold history of the free black men. No, no, not this one. Yeah, of the free black men.
This was me,
And you know what?
struggling to keep up with posting
And these are the
consistently on
elites.
YouTube
We're gonna
and
watch
getting
this
less views
11-minute
than normal,
video.
until
I'm talking
I
about the
found
elites.
Spotter
It's the
Studio.
untold history
Spotter
of
Studio is an AI
the
software
free
built
black
to help
men.
YouTubers
No,
come
no,
up
not
with
this
video
one.
ideas,
Yeah,
titles,
you know,
and
like
thumbnails
those are
based
the
on
people
data
who
that
were
leads to
against us
better
were the
performance.
elites.
It analyzes
Like the
everything about me,
boulets.
my audience. This was me.
And you know
Internal
what?
cultural
And
differences
these are
among
the like
blacks
the
have long been extreme, ranging
I'm
from
talking
such
about
things as
civil rights
urbanization,
activists.
education, and regional distribution, to rates of crime.
Yeah, you know, and
thumbnails
those are
based
the
on
people
data
who
that
were
leads to
against us
better
were the
performance.
elites.
It analyzes
Like the
everything about me,
boulets.
my audience. This was me.
And you know what?
Internal cultural
And
differences
these are
among
the
blacks
like
in their legal status, but also in their regional distribution, their degree of urbanization, and even biologically. There were free blacks as far back as the 17th century. In fact, there were free blacks before there were slaves in America. The first Africans brought in captivity to colonial Virginia in 1619 became indentured servants, like the white indentured servants who were common in colonial America.
so the indentured servants, the white indentured servants were Irish. Were the Irish? The Irish was never slaves. So that was a big lie that they told, talking about when the Irish was, oh yeah, we were slaves too. No, y'all was indentured servants. Y'all came over here because y'all wanted to come over here for freedom. So y'all bought y'all way out of freedom. That's how that worked. Us, the way how he's talking, he's saying that there was certain black people, there was those elite black people that were indentured servants. So I'll rewind it again and we'll listen to it.
Even biologically. There were free blacks as far back as the 17th century. In fact, there were free blacks before there were slaves in America. The first Africans brought in captivity to colonial Virginia in 1619 became indentured servants, like the white indentured servants who were common in colonial America. Only later, with the mass importation of Africans, did this change. The first law in America recognizing perpetual slavery appeared in 1661 in Virginia. The small class of free blacks in colonial America had fewer restrictions than other free blacks would have in the 19th century, and many of them and their descendants made use of their opportunities. There was a black writer named Gustavus Vassa, whose book was popular enough to go through 8 editions at a time when the vast majority of blacks were still illiterate slaves in the South. Benjamin Banneker was a publisher of almanacs and was also one of those who designed the layout of the city of Washington. Again, long before most blacks were either free or able to read and write. There were not just isolated individual blacks who were culturally more advanced than other blacks, but whole classes of blacks who had achieved cultural levels that most blacks would not achieve until many generations later. The size of the free black population increased after the United States came into existence as an independent nation, as the ideology of freedom associated with the American Revolution led most northern states to abolish slavery, and even in the South, enough white slave owners freed their slaves to cause the free black population there to nearly double and then redouble between 1790 and 1810. Both the regional distribution and the degree of urbanization of free and enslaved blacks differed greatly. After the invention of the cotton gin in 1793, the cotton plantations of the Deep South began to draw slaves away from upper South states like Virginia and North Carolina toward more southerly states like Mississippi and Alabama, sometimes as individuals sold down the river and often as part of whole plantations that relocated. Thus, the geographic center of the black population moved steadily southwestward at an average of about 50 miles per decade. Meanwhile, the free persons of color were moving in the directly opposite direction. While more than 90% of the antebellum black population lived in the South, the free persons of color were evenly divided between the states of the North and South, and within the South, they tended to leave the Deep South and gravitate toward that region's less oppressive places farther north. The difference in geographic distribution was so extreme that in 1860 there were more free blacks living in the city of Washington alone than in the states of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia combined, these states having huge concentrations of slaves. The slave and the free also differed greatly in urbanization. While most black slaves worked in rural settings, by 1860 the free persons of color were more urbanized than even the white population. There were cultural consequences to these historic and geographic differences. While the vast majority of slaves could neither read nor write, the census of 1850 showed that most free persons of color were literate. But it would be half a century later, 2 generations after emancipation, before the same would be true of the black population as a whole. It would be 1940 before the black population as a whole became as urbanized as the free persons of color were in 1850. The cultural head starts of this segment of the black population had enduring consequences. The descendants of the antebellum free persons of color remained predominant among black leaders in many fields well into the 20th century, and they included W.E.B. Du Bois, Thomas Fortune, Charles Waddell Chestnut, Thurgood Marshall, John Hope Franklin, and many others.
And they were a part of the Pan-Africanism. If you really ask me, I think W.E.B. Du Bois is the forefathers of Pan-Africanism. That's the part that I wanted to stop at, because W.E.B. Du Bois pushed Pan-Africanism on us. They told us we were African American. You know? I do want to say this. Put it this way. This African American thing, I think Jesse Jackson started African American. And I know the motherfuckers, I know the man's in a wheelchair right now. But I'm going to say this. They were pushing that term. Give me a second. I'm going to find it. Me, per se, I always never liked the word African American. You know? I think he was a part of the CIA too.
Since 1619 and the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in Virginia, standard terminology to describe Africans living in America was colored or Negro. For over 360 years, as blacks were relegated to second-class citizenship, terms that reinforced oppression have been used to describe them. But as centuries pass, black people have at times fought to break free from derogatory labels. After the Civil War, several black people dispensed with the names given them by their former enslavers. This would continue even into the 1900s when, during the height of the Civil Rights Movement, black leaders strongly rebelled against Jim Crow labels. But for mainstream America, a major turning point came in the late 1980s. On this day in 1988, a group of black leaders, including Reverend Jesse Jackson and representatives from the NAACP, met to discuss the national black agenda. It was here that Jackson and his peers catapulted the term African American into the country's lexicon. The term has been used since the 1970s, but never gained widespread acceptance until after this Chicago convention. Reverend Jackson said, "To be called African Americans has cultural integrity. It puts us in our proper historical context. Every ethnic group in this country has a reference to some land base, some historical cultural base. African Americans have hit that level of cultural maturity." Jackson stated that other races could connect their heritage to their mother countries with a sense of pride and acceptance. The term rose to prominence because it was considered more appropriate than black or colored. But we are now seeing a growth in popularity of the term black, this time for a different reason. Following George Floyd's murder last year, the New York Times announced it would be capitalizing the B in black to describe people and cultures of African origin in the U.S. and elsewhere. This is something heavy about the word black and how we as a people were able to take something meant for our ridicule and turn it into black power. And that is for the culture. Thank you for watching Prime.
So the question is, who gave him that idea of African American? So we were listening to Jesse Jackson, scheming ass Jesse Jackson, on stop calling us self black. I call him a scammer. I always call Jesse Jackson a scammer. It's foul, I know, but at the end of the day, I think it suits him. I think it suits him. I think it suits him properly because at the end of the day, oh, fat. Bit my tongue. I don't think, I think it's distasteful. I think it's very distasteful, you know? And that's just me, you know? Like, I'm gonna land right here. I think Pan-Africanism and everybody who's with Pan-African movement, I'm talking about the leaders. They had an agenda against us. I really do believe that. I really feel like these Pan-Africans try to take our culture Give us a culture that we never had, never worked with, never knew nothing about, and give to us. Knowing that's not us. Dr. Umar knew that. Dr. Umar knew that. Tariq knew that. But Tariq Nasheed did the right thing. And yes, Tariq Nasheed isn't his real name, but at the end of the day, that is his spiritual name. If anything. Snoop ain't his real name, but we still call him Snoop. Birdman ain't his real name, but we still call him Birdman. So what is the problem with us calling him Tariq Nasheed? Muhammad Ali ain't his real name, but we call him Muhammad Ali and not Cassius Clay. It's about, it always with us has been about respect. We knew y'all never respected us. Africans never respect black Americans. A lot of these foreigners never respect black Americans because they all thought our culture was slavery. Now we're starting to remember and start to, not even remember, now we start to know our culture. Now let's ask the question, what if we were fighting, we were fighting Europeans to not be slaves? What if it was over 40 years that we've been fighting for at a time? There has been a lot of wars in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s. So what happened if those wars were our wars? What happened if the Native Americans wasn't the only ones fighting the wars? I say that to say this. If John Horse was fighting and we finding out John Horse was black, but he was considered native, what can we say? John Horse was a black man. He wasn't Mexican or Latino, he was black. He died in Mexico. He was from Florida. 1812 to 1882. This is what we got. He was in the Seminole War. He was a black man. He was an Aboriginal, and this is why I always tell people all the time, we were mixing and breeding. We do have, this is why I say this ethnogenesis thing is crazy. This is why people always undermine when they hear ethnogenesis. I had to study what an ethnogenesis is. I had to study what that was. Honestly, I think I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna call it quits on the Pan-Africanism. I will never touch any red, black, and green flag ever again. I will never, I don't even like saying I'm African American. I always felt uncomfortable. That's probably the second thing that offends me. The first thing offends me when you call me brother. Second thing that offends me was when you call me African American. It offends me. Please don't call me African American. It's just, I'm sorry. This is the first time I laugh because I try to stay serious with this podcast. I try to cut down on the swearing with this podcast. Is because these are conspiracies. We got to take these light. We can't take these lightly. We got to take these serious. The reason why we taking these serious because at the end of the day, there's people that already believes in this stuff right here, this Pan-Africanism stuff. There's some people like me that don't believe in it. But at the end of the day, we still have to respect each other. We just did the history on it. I just showed that, okay, you know what? We have been fighting. Seminoles. He was a Seminole. He was an Aboriginal. So now the question is, this is the solution. This is the solution I'm gonna give us. We need to do the research. We need to do the fact checking. Because last time we listened to somebody on their resources, we were enslaved reading them, listening to what they're saying about the Bible. And in the Bible, it was not saying that. Until this day, we still use their talking facts in the Bible. Even though half that stuff that they tell us is not in the Bible. They had this man Martin Luther King going out here not fighting and getting beat up. I'm just being personally honest. And yeah, he was a Pan-African. Y'all can keep that. But at the end of the day, it wasn't right what y'all did to him. Y'all used him as a sacrificial lamb. Jesse Jackson know what he did. Let me tell you something. I think Jesse Jackson knows more than what he tells us about that Martin Luther King thing. That's just me. I think he knows a little bit more than what he tells us. But until then, thank you for watching the first episode of A Roshalin's World. Y'all take care and y'all have a great day.